Now, lawmakers in Israel will today vote to select two legislators to sit on Israel's judicial appointments panel. In an election, politicians are looking to as a bellwether for ongoing efforts to find a compromise on remaking the country's judiciary. We now want to turn to Ariel Waldman at the Knesset, our I-24 News correspondent there. Ariel, Netanyahu wants to maintain the status quo, but does he have the majority in the Likud party? And has the party convened this morning?
So the party has convened as of 10 o'clock this morning, because this is after a meeting with the heads of the coalitions that began at 9. And you can actually see the big crowd of both security and media behind me just outside the Prime Minister's office, where inside the Knesset building, where that is taking place at the moment. Now, it is a little bit of a state of chaos right now, to say the least. There's certainly been internal reports in Israeli media saying that the Prime Minister wants to come down on the side of some form of compromise, with one appointee being from the coalition, another appointee being from the opposition. But we are seeing some very strong push from inside the party itself, the coalition itself, demanding that Netanyahu take the initiative and take those two seats on the panel. We had statements from the member of Knesset, Boaz Bismuth, not that long ago, saying that, look, you have the opportunity to take two seats, take those two seats, and he's going to be pushing forward to do that. But we also see members of the coalition starting to drop out of the running for the candidacy for those two seats, with Eli Dalal just minutes ago deciding he was going to drop his candidacy. But that still leaves 7 members of the coalition in the race for those two seats. So again, this could go in any direction right now. And some more hardline members of the coalition are already saying it doesn't even matter. They're saying that there's clearly no real compromise with the opposition happening. There's no motion with the opposition on what a compromise might look like. We had Ben Gvir saying this morning that just push ahead in the plenum session today with the judicial overhaul and be done with it, and don't even bother moving into a compromise stage. So that's just the voices as they are at this time in Knesset. But why is it so important that we're talking about appointments on a committee? Usually that's the inside baseball of inside baseball and politics. You can't think of anything more dull than a committee member posting. But it's not just about that, because this big fight is actually being seen as a microcosm of the judicial overhaul fight as a whole right now. Remember from the very beginning what this fight has been characterized as, with the opposition coming out and saying it's an attempt for the government to gain total control over the courts. Now, if you're talking about the Judicial Selection Committee, that is a very powerful tool in establishing, if not total control, a massive amount of influence. Let's break that panel down and see exactly why. Half of the panel, actually more than half of the panel, is already taken up by legal professionals. You have 3 members of the Supreme Court. You have 2 members of the Israeli Bar Association. The coalition has been accusing that segment of the Judicial Appointments Committee of really being its own sort of ideological agenda. So then you have 2 members of the government and 2 members of Israel's parliament, which means if it's not split 1-1 between the coalition and the opposition, the coalition has a massive amount of influence in getting that 5-vote majority in the Supreme Court, in the coalition's judicial appointment panel.
Okay. Ariel Waldman, thank you very much. And Ben Amini, senior journalist studio at the Chonot Daily, joins us now in studio for some analysis on that. So first of all, Ben, this is we're not going to know who voted for who. It's a secret vote in the parliament. And I want to ask, the fact that it's secret plays to the hands of the opposition, to the dovish side, I would say, and within the Likud as well, that are looking for a compromise and the maintenance of the status quo with 1 member of the opposition, 1 member of the coalition, or whether the fact that it's discreet works for the benefit of the hawkish side of the map.
It's working for the hawkish side. I'll tell you why. Because first of all, we have only 1 candidate from the opposition. And the meaning is that anyway, he's going to have many Knesset members voting for him.
For her, in this case.
For her, in this case, yeah. And we need only few from the coalition in order to have a kind of majority for the representative of the opposition. It's not like that in the coalition, because they have 7 and maybe 6, because 1 dropped. 6. I mean, nobody knows. There is not 1 who is agreed by all the members of the coalition. So probably the representative of the opposition is going to be elected. But it's very symbolic. The whole story is very symbolic, Why? Because actually, in order to appoint a Supreme Court judge, you need a majority of 7. The meaning is that even if the coalition will have 2 members, it will not change anything.
A majority of 7 or a majority of 5?
Of 7.
So
No.
5 is for the appointments of
it will change.
the
It will
district
change.
courts.
It will change for all the other courts,
Yeah.
but not for the Supreme Court. It is highly important, all the other courts, but they will not have a majority anyway, even with those 2. Concerning, of course, what will be in the Israeli bar.
And that also exactly depends
yeah,
on what happens with the Bar Association in Israel,
exactly.
who is the head, if
But
it's Efi Naved.
probably it's not going to be members, supporters of the current coalition.
Now, again, I want to, since our viewers are not all perhaps on the same page as you and I are with regards to the significance of this. Ariel Waldman started alluding at the importance of the choices that will be made today. But this is part of an overall attempt by this new government, not so new anymore, more half a year in office, to overhaul the judiciary. Now, there are negotiations that are happening at the president's residence. The heads of the demonstrations against the judicial overhaul are saying that these leaders don't even have the mandate to negotiate on their behalf. But they are saying that they might withdraw today if Karine El-Harar from the opposition is not voted in. Give us an overview of how you see the negotiations as they're progressing at the moment.
Oh, okay, let me tell you something. According to what I know, out of something like 7 points, they agreed, kind of agreed, about 2 points, speaking about reasonability as opposed to revoke government decisions, and about the judicial advising in the
the judicial councils, the legal councils of the offices.
So, which is good enough for the beginning, but I have to say something. Most of the people in Israel, the majority, according to all the polls, they do not want the judicial overhaul. But in the very same time, you have a majority in Israel that that support a reform, because the judicial activism went too far. It is agreed upon, even by many scholars. So in between, they must find a compromise. Can they do it? I don't know. We don't know. Because right now it's looked like more as a political debate than a real debate between scholars who say, okay, we have to make a compromise for the benefit of all of us in order to change it, to make the whole system a bit better.
Last, do you think that Netanyahu has a majority within the Likud today to maintain the status quo and have 1 member of the opposition, 1 member of the coalition?
It's a good question. He is in between. He is in between. And let me tell you, he is glad. He is glad that there are something like 6 candidates. So the votes will go to all the 6 or not to all the 6, but it's something which guarantees the electing of the opposition candidate.
If 2 candidates from the coalition are elected, do you expect that we will see demonstrators going out to the streets?
Yes, it might be again the gallant night. When I'm speaking about the gallant night, I'm speaking about the night of the biggest demonstrations ever that were carried out in Israel. It might be the same because the people who are not going anymore to the demonstrations will come back.